And welcome back, everyone, to Lantern Corps. Today's Lantern Corps comes to us from Julian Finholm, who asked the question, what is Atreus's, or aka Loki, from God of War series, Lantern Corps? So, I didn't play God of War, the most recent two, but I am familiar with the story. Obviously, I've watched a lot of the cutscenes. Atreus starts out, as the cowardly kid wanting to prove himself, and then we start to realize kind of more of who he is, and it turns out he's Loki. Then Odin takes interest in him to try to prevent Ragnarok, which is really the end of Odin. Spoilers, by the way, for a game that's been out for a few years. The end of Odin, not the end of Asgard or anything else. And Odin just can't handle that. He can't handle the truth, and he thinks Loki is the way to save himself, more or less. So, the question is, what emotional core does he really work in? Let's get a lot of these out of the way. I think there's three good categories here. Let's actually work a little bit backwards from the top, almost the top. In terms of the absolute universe, I think there is one option. Spoilers for that. But the other three don't work. Yellow doesn't work, red doesn't work, and black doesn't work. Black is chaos/freedom. Yellow is lack of fear, enlightenment, all that. And red is the restraint of rage. Green, though, sorry, wrong green. Spoilers. There you go. Green, though, the absolute Green Lanterns, I mean, again, they all use a certain level of willpower, but more than anything else, it's about apparently doing the right thing at the right time. It's about, the right action, just acting on what's right. That's how the green works in the absolute universe, more or less. That's the best description I can find for it. And that actually does fit Atreus pretty well, based on what we see in the story. He is just trying to do what he thinks is right. I think that does work well in his favor. Sorry, I thought I heard something. Now, if we move to the right half of the screen here, he doesn't hit a lot of these. He's certainly not a gray lantern of sorrow. He's not a lantern of happiness. He's not a gold lantern. Not a lantern of shame, although certainly blame has certainly been placed on him for certain things in the past, but he's not a lantern of shame. He's also not a white lantern, nor is he a black lantern. But as we did kind of get spoiled, he is, I think, a green lantern, because the whole idea of a green lantern is great willpower, determination, and overcoming great fear, which he's had to do. And that is a large portion of his story arc, at least in the first game. So that, I think, makes perfect sense. There is one other option, though. One is, I don't think he's a lantern of fear. Just, even though Odin was kind of scared of him, it was for a very odd reason. He's not a lantern of rage either, certainly not that. Not a lantern of love, although he did love his mother. I don't believe that's the thing that motivates him emotionally. He's not a lantern of compassion, because the lanterns of compassion actually seek people who don't have compassion normally. He's not a lantern of avarice, which leaves us really with the last one. Lantern of hope. And I think this might be one of the better options for him, due to the fact that really everything he's doing is doing in the faith that he can make something better out of the situation. They can prevent Ragnarok. They can save people. And people put their trust in him and their faith in him as well. Now, is he a strong lantern of hope? No, there are better candidates, probably in the world of God of War than that. But I think he could make a good lantern of hope. So the question just comes down to, which one do I think is the most likely? I think this is another time, even though we've only just recently added the absolute lanterns here, where the absolute answer is the right answer. Because that is kind of who he is in those games, is that he's someone who's just trying to do the right thing for the right reasons. He's just trying to do what's right. And so I think that really ties him in line with the Green Lanterns of the absolute universe. Now, be very clear, by the way, that was my interpretation of it, and from what I could find in my research for the absolute universe's Green Lanterns. The other three, I know for a fact what their emotion represents, but the green one still is a little in the air for me. So if you know a little bit more about the absolute universe than I do, let me know what the absolute Green Lantern's emotional, if I'm right on that or if I'm not right. We still also don't know what the other emotional spectrum. We still have to find the emotional light of love, compassion, greed, and hope, and what those essentially look like in this universe, if we ever see them. My guess would be it's the opposite, like the reverse opposite. Compassion is looking for someone with like the most compassion, as opposed to the variation we see in the standard one where it's looking for someone without it. Love. I'm guessing it's. You see, I could imagine the Love Lantern Corps working the way that the Indigo Corps works in the main universe, where it's looking for people who can't feel it or are devoid of love, and then is putting love into their hearts. That I can see being how it works in the Absolute Universe. Avarice, though? See, you're either inversing the trope of fear, or sorry, in the trope, you're inversing the emotion, like with the Yellow Lantern Corps, feeling no fear whatsoever instead of inspiring fear, or you're doing something, or it's something that's an aspect of the emotion, like red is restraining rage, or black is basically freedom of death is freedom of life, basically. So it's chaos in life. So the idea of what the inverse of avarice would be, like just complete generosity. Um, it's selflessness being selfish, maybe. Not exactly sure how you would warp greed. Greed feels like the one that would remain the same, frankly. Hope, again, someone who's hopelessness, a nihilistic Lantern Corps, really. And then again, you just invert it and turn it kind of like into the Indigo Corps once again. I don't know. That's my thought process on it at any rate. Let me know what you think, though. Let me know if I am right on the absolute Green Lanterns or not, or if I'm wrong. Till then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.